Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Undersecretary Newland, I'm curious about how much information we've really been able to share with the public with regard to the reasoning behind our funding for the Ukrainians in this war with Russia. Many of us have the opportunity to get the classified discussions where we can be pretty frank about what's going on. I think there's a lot of folks out there that have not had the opportunity that we've had, and they will challenge whether or not we've been appropriate or reasonable in our support, continued support for Ukraine in this particular instance. Would it be fair to say in this unclassified discussion that the administration's policy is, or the position is, that Ukraine can win this war against Russian aggression?
Senator, I think a year ago, none of us would have believed that we would be sitting here and Ukraine would still be standing as she is. That said, a third of her territory, as you know, is now held by Russia illegally. So if we didn't think that this investment could push back Putin and turn back this tactic that is lawless and creates a world that none of us wants our children to live in, that you can just take a piece of your neighbor's property by force and that's okay, we would not be asking you, we would not be asking the American people for this support. And so we've seen the gains that the Ukrainians were able to make through September. We are now, they want to push again very hard as the spring comes. And that is why you see these new forms of equipment that will help them, we believe, to push Russia back further this spring.
So, in terms of the administration's position, our goal is one of, on the ground, seeing Ukraine regain lost land that Russia has taken in previous offensive moves. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
So, longer term, would it be the position that we continue to fund Ukraine as long as Russia has those ill-gotten gains in their possession?
Senator, I think we're going to have to ensure that Ukraine has the defenses not only to continue to try to push Russia back, but to ensure that Putin can't reconstitute and come back. So, you know, one scenario one could see, and one that some think that the Russians favor, is a pause in this war now on these lines, because that would give Putin time to rest and refit and rebuild his own military. And as we saw between 2014 and 2022, he will just be back and he will push further and he will come not just for Ukraine but for other countries around him. So that's why it has to end here.
It may be semantics, but what we're really talking about is whether or not Ukraine can win this episode, this war. And part of what you're telling me is within the administration, it is a matter of taking back land from Russia and putting them in a position to where they will not be able to come back and attack again. And that suggests to me that we really do believe that Ukraine can win this war. Is that a fair statement? Or I'm trying to get you to either say, yes, we believe Ukraine can win the war, or we're not really making that statement. Do we believe that Ukraine can win the war?
We believe that Ukraine can regain the sovereignty to survive and thrive, and it can push Russia back further, yes.
Does that mean they win the war?
Ukraine will define what winning is, right? But yes, I believe so.
So the administration has a belief that if we continue to fund their needs, and those needs have yet to be defined, it is based upon what the current requests are. Do we know what the next requests are that would give them the ability to retake this land?
So, Senator, you and the American people have been very generous for FY23. We are assuming that what you have given us for 2023 is what we will have through September. As we saw, you know, a year is an eternity in Ukraine, so we don't know where we will
What I'm
be in the
getting at
summer.
I don't mean to be argumentative, but
Yeah.
it's one thing to say that we're going to put resources in. It's another thing to say that Ukraine has made requests that we have either responded to and said no to, or Ukraine is making requests that we are not going to respond to. We just did the Abrams tanks after a lot of foot dragging. Are there other items out there that are in the near future that we intend to expand on that we have simply not talked about yet?
In this setting, I would simply say that we are working in particular now on speeding more air defenses, speeding more artillery, speeding more ammunition to the Ukrainians. You've given us the ability in the financing that we already have to do more between now and September. And we are working with the Ukrainians as they proceed with their battle plans to ensure that what we're giving meets the needs on the ground.
Thank you. And, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for going over. I just simply think it's really important that the American people understand that this has not been a one step at a time without knowing the direction that we're trying to go, and that there really is a plan in place. And if not, there should be a plan in place with strategies in place to be ahead of the game rather than simply waiting for the next request in line.
No, absolutely. And just understanding better what you were getting at, as you saw from August to the Kherson offensive in October, we worked intensively with the Ukrainians on the kinds of equipment and other kinds of support and training that they needed to mount that offensive. They did that, and now they have plans for a spring offensive, and that's what we're focused on, both in terms of training and equipment. I don't know if Assistant Secretary Waller wants to add.
My time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.